Hey guys, the Black Critic Guy, and I am finally back with a brand new movie review. Although, as you can probably tell, it's not in the same style as all my other reviews, both movies and anime. And the reason for this is because, as I mentioned in my BCG mail a couple days ago, I've been incredibly swamped and exhausted from working my two jobs. I mean, when I go to my first job, I go directly to my second job. I come home at like 2 in the morning, and I just don't have the energy to sit down and make a legitimate review for anything. I haven't made a review since like, what was it? Alien Covenant? About 2 or 3 weeks ago? That's how long it's been, and it breaks my heart because I love making reviews, but because of the two jobs, I haven't found enough time to sit down and make a legitimate review. But I also just don't want to not share my opinions of the films that I saw on Thursday night. I know a lot of you really want to hear my thoughts on many movies that I have seen but have not time to sit down and record a video. So instead, for the time being, this will not be a permanent thing. It's just a temporary thing until life gets back on track and I have more time to make legitimate reviews. I'm just gonna do these one-shot reviews, these quick reviews, and they say that with quotations because knowing me, it's gonna take me like 10 minutes to get to a point. Hell, I'm rambling right now. Here we go, typical Black Critic Guy style. But basically, I'm gonna sit here and give my thoughts, share the pros and cons of a movie or anime that I've seen recently. And I've seen two films this Thursday. I saw Cars 3 and All Eyes on Me, and those are the ones I'm going to review today. I'm going to do Cars 3 first, and then I'll do a separate video talking about All Eyes on Me. Now with that said, again, keep in mind, this is not a permanent thing. It's temporary until I can finally sit down and make legitimate reviews, because I love the old style. The old style is a part of me, and doing these one-shot reviews is kind of like the nostalgia critic, or Doug Walker I should say, because it's not really his persona. And as much as I'm okay with that because he has an interesting insight to some of the movies that he watches, it's just not me. I like putting pictures and all that stuff. I probably will have like maybe one picture here, but basically, okay, enough rambling, let's get to the review. I'm here to talk about Cars 3. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I wasn't looking forward to Cars 3. When I heard they announced they were making a Cars 3, I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Another Cars? I mean, I don't hate the Cars franchise. In fact, I might be one of its solo defenders, because I actually really enjoyed the first Cars, and I thought it had some substance to it. I loved its message of, embracing life to the fullest and don't just speed by it. I mean, it is a cliche message, but it's a good message nonetheless. And again, I loved it. It was a really fun movie. It had a really good soundtrack too. The characters were interesting for the most part. Mater, yes, was really annoying. I'm not going to deny that. But I love the colorful cast of characters that we met in Cars. And one of the things I love about the Cars franchise is the locale, the different locations that they visit in the film. They did it in Cars, they did it in Cars 2, which I think might be the only saving grace about the film, and they also do it in Cars 3, which we'll get to soon. And then there's the abomination that was Cars 2, which changed the focus from the interesting character of Lightning McQueen to his bumbling sidekick, Larry the Cable Mater. I mean, I don't know whose decision it was to take a comic relief character and elevate them to the level of main character status, but that was a stupid idea. Every single time a movie, TV show, anime elevates a mainly comic relief character that's supposed to just be there for some quips now and again, to main character status is bound to fail. That's like making a Steve Urkel TV show where it's like Steve Urkel's the main character and he has a supporting cast. It doesn't work that way. Steve Urkel is the supporting cast. He plays off of the straight man that is, I forgot what the name of his character was. Carl? He plays off of the straight man that is Carl and the family itself. The family's normal while Steve Urkel is not. When you make that person the main character, it throws off the dichotomy and it's just not going to be the same. Same thing goes for Cars 2. Not only that, Mater's a terrible choice because Mater is annoying and unsympathetic. And Larry the Cable Guy voices him. Do I hate Larry the Cable Guy? No, it's just he he's just not main character status. I mean, all of Larry the Cable Guy's films have been awful in my opinion. Does anybody remember The Health Inspector? Yeah, I remember The Health Inspector. Or how about Witless Protection? Those are some of the, like, bottom of the barrel comedies, low brow comedies. Even Hicks would be, like, ashamed watching that film, saying, "Really, Larry, you're giving us a bad name." So yeah, Cars 2 sucked. Not a lot of people liked it. No one understood why it was made, and especially they didn't understand why they changed the focus from not only Lightning McQueen to Tow Mater, but now it's a spy espionage film. That's a total 180 to what the Cars franchise has been about, which is racing. The racing was the background while the spy stuff was the foreground. So yeah, it was a terrible misfire by Pixar, and it tarnished their image for a while too. A lot of people were angry about it, including myself. Let's not forget too, it came out right after they released the amazing Toy Story 3. They followed it up with Cars 2. John, I think you're losing it, man. You're losing it. So yeah, I was none too pleased when I heard they were making a Cars 3. But then it all changed when we all saw the teaser trailer to Cars 3. And that was a totally different direction. That got dark real fast. I wasn't able to share my thoughts on the teaser trailer, but I loved it. I was excited for this new direction. And after learning that they got a new creative team to helm this franchise, it got me even more excited. Some fresh blood for the franchise. They got a new director. It's not John Lasseter anymore. I'll probably put a picture of the guy here and his name right here. They got a new set of writers working on the film, new artists. Again, I'm excited to see what direction they would take it. So I went in to Cars 3 with an open mind, hoping to have fun. And I have to be honest with you guys, I really liked it. What surprised me so much is that it's a Cars film with Pixar level storytelling. That's something we have not seen in any of the Cars films so far, including the first one. As much as I love the first one, it definitely does slack in the storytelling department. It's just too run-of-the-mill for a Pixar film. And while Cars 3 isn't like a game changer or anything, it captures a lot of those Pixar-esque moments perfectly. There were three times in the film where I thought they perfectly captured the Pixar-esque moments, or the Pixar touch is what I'll call it. One of the most profound moments is when one of the new characters by the name of Cruz Ramirez opens up to Lightning McQueen about how she never really wanted to be a trainer, she wanted to be a racer. That is the Pixar magic that's been missing in these films, this franchise. And they finally brought it to Cars 3, and I was so astounded. Another thing that Pixar does well too is with its lighthearted, fun, entertaining sequences. And that is definitely shown in a scene where Lightning and Ramirez sneak in to pretty much a car derby. I believe the place is called it's Thunder Valley, I believe. I could be wrong. I didn't write any notes for this. But that was also the Pixar magic, because Pixar is known for making some really high quality, entertaining, exhilarating scenes, and that was really fun. It's crazy, it was nonsensical, but it was entertaining. So what did I like about the film? First off, the animation is stunning. I expect no less from Pixar. They always put their best foot forward when it comes to their animation. And another thing I love too, and this goes hand to hand with a lot of Pixar films, is their attention to detail. Like, you can just see the rubber flying off the ground as cars zoom down the track, and you see like sand and dirt on the wheels whenever they're driving away, and it stays with them for a while. Another thing too is you actually feel the weight and friction whenever characters are moving. You feel the weight of these characters. Like when they're driving on sand, they drive differently than when they're driving on the road or when they're driving in mud. You see the impact, and Pixar is so great at capturing these things and making them feel realistic, even though, again, it's a movie about cars that can talk. Another thing I liked is how greatly they captured races. The races were exhilarating, they were intense, they were gripping. Even though you kind of know the outcome, I thought, for the first time, I was actually excited to see races. I'm not a big NASCAR guy, but these races were actually pretty exhilarating, especially the race where lightning wipes out. I mean, not only do you feel the emotions of the scene, but the animation is top-notch, too. It's just really well done. Another thing I loved was the voice acting. The voice actors did a fantastic job with their characters. Yes, even Larry the Cable Mater did a pretty good job voicing his character. In fact, I was astounded how well he did, and how sparingly his character showed up. I'll touch on that a little bit more when I talk about the characters. Another thing I loved about the voice acting is I actually felt the emotional weight in their performances, particularly with Owen Wilson, Bonnie Hunt, and the new girl who voices the new character, Cruz Ramirez. I don't know what her name is. Again, I'll probably put a picture in her name right here. But all three of these characters gave the best voiceover performances. I didn't want to say reads, because they're not just reading it, they're actually acting it out. But they gave the best performances in the entire film, in my opinion. And it's mostly due to the exchanges between the characters, because Lightning will talk to Bonnie Hunt's character, Sally, I believe her name is Sally, and I love those small scenes. They're very brief, but they have so much weight to them, and they say so much in those 2 minutes than they could have possibly said if it was like 15 minutes long. It's short, brief, to the point, and hits you where it needs to hit you. And that's another thing, or I guess I'll go into the characters now. One thing I found so beautiful about the film too is that it understood how to utilize their characters, both main and supporting. The supporting characters were the supporting characters, and they did not overtake any scenes. They did not overpower the main characters. They served their purpose as support. Sally, as much as she was a main character in the first film, and she barely was in the second, which is a damn shame, because I like Sally. Sally was one of my favorite characters in the first Cars, and I loved her relationship with Lightning McQueen. Didn't see a spit of that in Cars 2. Upsetting. They bring it back here in Cars 3, and the relationship is just as great as I remembered it being. In fact, it might be even greater. The depth of their relationship and how they both understood each other is phenomenal. And how Sally kind of comes to Lightning McQueen's aid and comforts him in his time of need, as a good spouse should be, was just so fantastic to see. And I'm glad we had those small moments. I wish we could have had more, but they used it properly. It didn't overstay its welcome. That's the problem with some scenes in Cars 2 and in the original Cars. So there's just scenes that just overstate their welcome. But here, they understood how to use it properly. Another good example of this is Tow Mater. He's not in the film that much. Thank the Lord. They understood not to use this character a lot. But in the scenes that he was used properly. And interestingly enough, he had a pretty touching scene with Lightning McQueen that actually convinced me that they were best friends. I never thought in a million years I would actually say that Tow Mater was a good friend or a decent character in a Cars film, but he was. When Lightning's at his lowest point, he's just feeling so sad about himself, he turned to Mater, talked to him, and he cheered him right back up and gave him a new idea. He served his purpose very well. But let's talk about the main characters. Let's talk about Lightning and Cruz Ramirez. This has to be the best character arcs I've seen in any of the Cars films. Excellent character arcs. First with Lightning McQueen, who, he was at the top of the world, he was the #1 racer, and then this newcomer comes and just blows him out of the water, and he's desperately trying to catch up to him. He doesn't want to accept the fact that he is getting old, and that the newcomers are going to come. He says, I'm still the best, I can still do it like back in the old days, I'm still young and fresh, but the truth is, he's not. he's rusty, and he's not capable of outbeating the new guy, Jackson Storm. Which is, in my opinion, is kind of a stupid name. Jackson Storm. But again, Lightning McQueen. Well, no, Lightning McQueen actually has some relevance. It's based off of Steve McQueen, who was a movie star, and he actually, one of his most famous films was called Bullet, which is a racing film. So there's something to it. But Jackson Storm, I don't know, it just sounds kind of ridiculous. And what I love so much about his character arc is that he realizes that he has to accept the fact that he's getting old. And that's actually interesting that the film went that direction. I thought they were going to go the whole way like, oh, you still got a lot left in you, kid. You still got some more racing left in you. No, the film actually says, hey, Lightning, you're getting old, and you need to accept it. But just because you are old doesn't mean you can't surprise them. It doesn't mean you have nothing left to show. You just gotta be clever about it. And the film cleverly wove that into the storytelling, into Lightning McQueen's character arc. And I do like that they took this approach instead of saying that, you know, he's still that young whippersnapper that he was in the first Cars film. No, he has grown as a character. He has to accept this and accept a new role. And I'm not going to give away how it all ends, but I do love what he does at the end of the film. It's a bit weird. I'm mixed about it. There are things about it I'm mixed about, but I loved what he did. It's very reminiscent to the first Cars film, where he's about to win the race, and then the veteran crashes, and instead of continuing, he stops right at the line, lets Chick Webb pass him, and he goes and gets the reigning champ and pushes him to the finish line, which shows a lot of growth in his character. Something similar happens in this film as well. Cruz Ramirez. Much like Mari from Evangelion 2.0, she has rejuvenated my interest in this franchise. Because of her, I'm actually excited to see another Cars film, if she's gonna be in it. I love Cruz Ramirez. She's a comic relief character done right, as well as a very deep main character. When you're first introduced to her, one of my favorite scenes in the film is where they're doing kind of like these jazzercise. He's just like, and spread your wheels, and then kick, and kick, and kick. Move your body, I'ma kick, and kick, move, move, move. It genuinely got a laugh from me. And her relationship with Lightning McQueen is dynamic. I felt chemistry between them. And learning her story about how she never really wanted to be a trainer, she wanted to be a racer, but she never really took the chance to become a racer, was it was heartbreaking. It was that Pixar magic that was missing from the Cars films. And it really struck a chord with me. And I loved her character arc where she finally learns to take a chance and become the racer that she's always wanted to be. It was beautiful. Also the story. Now the story I can't really say is original. It's still a bit cliche about like an old timer. He gets defeated by the newcomer, but then tries to get back into the game and, you know, Rocky style, getting strong now kind of thing. There's a bunch of montages in this film, by the way. Very well handled montages, but a bunch of them. And yeah, I like the story though. It was interesting. It was engaging. I loved the journey, basically. And speaking of the journey, I love the locations that they went to. One thing I love about the Cars franchise, I mentioned this earlier, is the different locales that they visit. It's just bursting with life, bursting with personality. And that's the same here. Like they go to this one beach that looks freaking gorgeous. It looks like a Florida beach in my opinion. They go to this car derby, as I mentioned earlier, which is probably the most memorable scene in the entire film, where all these cars are just like bashing into each other. There's this one called the Titter, I believe her name is. It's just a school bus, which brought up a lot of questions in my mind, like why is there a school bus in this world? Like, do cars go to school? Do they ride school buses to go to school? Why is there a school bus in this? You know what? Don't overthink it, Tony. Do not overthink it. But yes, the different locales, bursting with personality, bursting with life. They even go to Thomasville, where Doc Hudson was from, the guy that trained Lightning McQueen. Oh, I need to touch on that too. I'll get to that later. But they go to Thomasville and they go to this little blues bar, blues jazz bar. Again, just bursting with personality. I loved it. Rich with personality. And let's talk about Doc Hudson. I was extremely surprised to see them talk about Doc Hudson so much in this film. And I was surprised at how much importance his character has, even though he's no longer here. And that's because Paul Newman died a couple years ago, so... But it just felt like such a touching homage, a touching tribute to not only the character, but to Paul Newman himself. And the fact that Doc Hudson had a pivotal role to play in this film is incredible. There's a scene where Lightning meets Doc Hudson's old trainer, and he takes him to this garage and shows him something interesting that really touched my heartstring. It made so much sense about the character Doc Hudson. It made me miss his character, actually. So I thought that was very well handled. All the Doc Hudson scenes and how pivotal of a role he played in this film, even though he wasn't in the... Technically, wasn't in the film. So yeah, that was great. The final scenes of the film were really good too. Again, I'm a bit torn about it, and I'll get to that when I get to the cons. But it makes so much sense for the characters. It makes so much sense for the character arcs. It needed to happen to make the character arcs come full circle. Both of them. Both Lightning and Cruz. And it cemented my love of the film. You know, it comes back full circle. In my opinion, this should have been the last Cars film. It would have been a beautiful way to close off this franchise. Much like Toy Story 3 was a beautiful way to close off that franchise, even though they're gonna bring it back. I don't know why. Alright, let's talk about the problems now. Honestly, and this may surprise a lot of you, I don't really have a lot of problems with this film. I do have a couple. I didn't like this cliche, smarmy businessman played by Nathan Fillion. I got what his character was, but he was just a bit too cliche and on the nose. Especially, again, for a Pixar film. But it might have been right in line with the Cars franchise, as characters like his are very prevalent in the Cars franchise, very cliche and on the nose, by the numbers. I just didn't think his character was all that necessary. I didn't like him that much. The third act of the film, as much as it does serve a purpose and helps complete the character stories of Lightning McQueen and Cruz Ramirez, it just kind of, how do I put it? It felt like a cop-out, honestly. It felt like a cop-out, and again, I feel torn about this because I really liked the third act, and I thought it was beautiful. It's kind of like a passing of the baton kind of thing, and I thought it made a lot of sense. But what didn't make sense is allowing it to happen. Now, they come up with this BS excuse like, oh, well, as long as they have the same number, it's fine to do that thing. And I'm like, but in the middle of the race? I don't know if that's legal. Again, it just kind of rung untrue to me. I didn't like it that much. And there were other cliche moments that I wasn't particularly fond of. The whole, like, realizing that he was wrong and he has to apologize. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Oh, another thing would have been interesting to see the old racers. Kind of learn a little bit more about them. We do learn about them, but not enough to be like, yeah, I know these characters that well. One of them was a female racer, one of the first in this world, in this universe, and she talks about like how when she tried to get into racing, they wouldn't allow her to do it. Mainly, it was more of a sexist thing, kind of mirroring old school mentalities, and it would have been interesting to see a brief glimpse into her backstory of how she overcame that sort of adversity. The film touches on it, and she does talk about it, how she snuck into the race and all that stuff, but it would have been nice to see that, and it would have had a more profound impact on Cruz, who is kind of intimidated by this male-driven, get it? Male-driven, oh, not in the one-take reviews, Tony, please. But in this male-driven sport being intimidated by all of these male drivers, and she's jumping into the fray as one of the first female drivers. That's interesting. I like that. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, another big problem, and this really broke my heart, was the music. The music is so passé and forgettable. Randy Newman, I feel like you've lost your touch. You used to make some fantastic scores, but now it feels like you're just phoning it in, man. Hell, even the score in the first Cars film was pretty good. I remember that score. But this one is... no. It is such background music that it's painful. It's heartbreaking how bad it is. I know for some people music isn't a big deal, but for me, music plays a crucial role. And if you do music right, it can really enhance a situation or a scene. Here, it's just background noise, and it just doesn't stand out. It's so generic sounding. For a film that was doing a phenomenal job with its story and characters and visuals, the music just didn't live up to all of that. So yeah, I'm a bit heartbroken, Randy. I expected more. What else? What other problems did I have? I don't think I had any other problems. I really like this film. I am thoroughly shocked at how much I love this film. I wouldn't say that it's my favorite animated film of the year, nor will I say it's the best Pixar film, but it definitely lives up to the quality that Pixar is known for. And that's what makes me happy. A Cars film that finally lives up to the Pixar standard. That's what I wanted to see, and we finally got it. This new team of creative minds did a great job at revamping and pumping in fresh blood to this franchise to put it back on its second leg. And by the way, if you hear noise in the background, somebody's freaking mowing or something. But yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I would say that it's definitely worth watching. It's a good family film. It's a good Pixar film. Not their best, but a really good one. So that ends my quick review of Cars 3. Again, I'm sorry about this new style. It's not going to stay. This is just a temporary thing until I can finally get back to the original reviews, which will be soon, I promise you guys. But I would like to know what you guys thought about Cars 3. Did you thoroughly enjoy it? Do you think it's probably the best Cars film in the franchise so far? Or do you feel like it just follows the trend of all the Cars film and it's just not worth seeing? And let me know, who's your favorite character in Cars? My favorite character now is Cruz Ramirez. I love her. She's the reason why I'm actually going to give a damn about this franchise going forward. Comment below, let me know, and let me know what you guys think of the new style again. Only temporary, don't worry. And stay tuned, I will be doing a similar style, I'll be doing a review in this similar style for All Eyes on Me. That'll be coming your way real soon. And as always guys, if you'd like to see more videos of this channel, be a part of the Black Critic Crew, please hit that subscribe button below, like this video if you really enjoyed it, and I'm Tony Watt II, racing to the finish line as the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace YouTube.